Great. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Good afternoon. First and foremost, happy birthday to our head basketball coach. Coach Martin's birthday today, so want to wish him a happy birthday. Frank does these postseason press conferences annually and just give stock of where we've been and how we're moving forward. And last week I asked Frank and Dan if I could jump in, and I just wanted to make sure that one, that I was here to really impress upon people how important, obviously, this partnership is. The fact that in Frank's 4 years, the success that we've had on so many fronts, not just competitively, but also the way that our guys have acquitted themselves in the classroom, the amazing work that they've done in the community. It's been an absolute pleasure to have Frank leading UMass basketball, and excited for what's to come. And if nothing else, just wanted people to understand that it takes a village. It takes administrative help. It takes university help. It takes leadership from all sorts to get our programs up and going into the place that we all want them to be. And I wanted to just join and make sure that I was answering anything that might not be basketball related, in terms of how we impact the success of this program going forward. And so thank you for obliging me and allowing me the opportunity to be here as well.
It's getting away from another season is a difficult time because for everybody except one team, the rest of us end the season with a loss. And as someone that's been fortunate that I've gotten as close as you can get to a national championship at two different schools. When you lose your last game, you don't go home and feel good. You never do. It's for the last week I've been reflecting. I guess when you turn 60, Ryan, Howard, you would understand this. You have so much time in the rearview mirror that you start reflecting a little bit, and you start trying to figure out where you're at, where you come from, and how do you move forward. And as I went recruiting last week, while everybody else was on spring break, the season ended and everybody else decompressed, us coaches got on airplanes and we've been traveling around the country trying to do our jobs, which is what we sign up for. I don't expect anybody to give us a hug because we're doing what we signed up to do. But when I'm on an airplane, it's the only time I'm away from these gadgets. It's the only way I'm not, unless my wife's sitting next to me, I'm not a husband for 2 hours, and I'm not a dad because my kids have no access of getting a hold of me while I'm in the air. So when I'm on a 3.5-hour flight, I get to think a lot. And then you go work, and when you're done working, you go back to the airport, get on another plane. You're on the plane for 3 more hours, so you tend to think a lot. And as I've been reflecting, and I hope I don't bore everyone in here, I'm going to story tell a little bit to give you guys a little perspective about my journey and to why this moment is so important to me. So, I was raised by some hard-driving people and coaches. I've worked my whole career for some hard-driving people and coaches. And after my first year at K-State, 3 different individuals in the business approached me on separate times, independent of each other. And I'm not name dropping, I'm just sharing stuff with you. Dean Smith, John Thompson, George Raveling. Of the 3, I had a real good relationship with George Raveling. I created that relationship with all 3 of the guys because they all came in to recruit our high school players. So they already had an idea of who I was and how I conducted a basketball practice. And when I finished my first season at K-State, independent of each other, each one of them at one point grabbed me and said, in their own different ways, and all 3 of them, which is beautiful because that's what coaching used to be about. Everyone had a different personality, and we all lived through our personalities. We weren't a cookie-cutter business. They all said to me, Frank, this business is going to try and change you. Don't ever let it change you. Independent of each other. That's what they said to me. So now I keep going on my journey, and then I'm going to give you another cliff notes of how all these dots connect in the journey I live. Curtis Shaw, who was the head of the officials in the Big 12, calls me, and it's my last year at K-State, and he's in town because we had a big game, one of those big Monday games, and he was there to see the game. He says, you got 30 minutes, I can come see you today? I said, yeah, sure. And he comes over, and we're sitting down in my locker room, and he says to me, Frank, I respect you too much. I got to tell you what I know. I said, yeah, what's up? He said, the NCAA has made you the poster child of everyone that they want to do away in the coaching industry. You're the next guy, because they know that Huggins, Calhoun, Boeheim, I'm not trying to tell you wins. I'm telling you guys with strong public personalities. All those guys are getting ready to retire, and they want to make sure that they do not allow that back into college basketball. And I remember him saying that to me, and I was totally confused. I was like, where's this coming from? And then I remember the voices of those three guys telling me the business is going to try and change you. And as I've continued in my journey, what I've learned is that for somebody who's willing to express who he is and goes about the job the way I try to go about, what Curtis told me in that locker room that day, it's funny. The NCAA flies me in every 2 years to meet with young coaches to speak to them about how to conduct themselves as college basketball coaches. I just find it funny that all these words of people that live the life I live, they're willing to share those things with me. I'm fortunate, man. There's stuff at the Hall of Fame with my name on it. That's going to be there forever. I've lived an incredible journey in basketball. Anyone that knows me knows I love living life in the truth, and I'm about building and moving forward. So now keep hitting the fast forward button. And now I'd never been fired for failing, never in my life. I got fired at South Carolina for failing. That was a difficult moment, a difficult chapter for me to embrace at the time. And I had other job offers. I had other schools call me and offer me their jobs, and I said, no, thank you. But when Ryan called, this one was a little different. This school is very important to my family. This place is like part of our fabric when we wake up in the Martin household every day. In 2016, we became donors at the University of South Carolina, University of Massachusetts, while I was coaching at the University of South Carolina. In my wildest dreams that I think that I would one day represent this university. And when I say donors, it's not sending a $50 check with a book full of complaints. It's about sending a real money every single year to impact the lives of people that lived the life that my wife lived, people that lived the life that my oldest son lived when he was a student here. You know, for you guys, some of you guys weren't here in the room, nobody ever wrote that story of why my son chose to come play here when he was playing in the SEC and was given the opportunity to stay in the SEC. But yet he wanted to come play here because of the experience that his mother had when she was a student athlete here. And he thought it would be a great representation of our family since we're so invested in the success of this university. So now you hit fast forward, and you can blame Frank Martin for a lot of things. You're not going to blame him for lying, and you're not going to blame him for throwing people under the bus and not being loyal to the people who believes in him. This university and Ryan believed in me, gave me an opportunity to come here. I am who I am, man. I've been this person my whole life. We're human beings. I'm flawed just like everyone in this room. The difference is that my flaws are out in front of the world to see. They're not hidden in some room in private. And during my first 3 years here, Ryan and I, we speak about everything. Let me make sure I make this statement publicly. He has given us everything we need to win at University of Massachusetts. Everything. Anything that he can control for us to win, it has been provided. Our players have amazing experiences on this campus. They're afforded incredible opportunities to find success as individuals and obviously as athletes. That's why we're donors at this university. By the way, and I continue to be a donor, and I will continue to be a donor at this university because of how powerful it was in the life of my family and the players that I've coached since I've been here. And in our conversations, Ryan has expressed to me, like, Frank, you're kind of going over the top a little bit on the sideline. Well, I gave you the cliff notes of the journey. to make you understand that getting fired for failure creates an edge in a human being that's different than anything else. So when I was afforded this opportunity here, I created the pressure internally that I needed to do my job better, because this university is part of our fabric in my home. This is not a job for me. This is a journey that's part of our chapter as a family, what this university's done. He went out and believed in me. He's given me everything I need. I have a responsibility to provide this university with championship level basketball. That's why I said in our press conference after our last game, I didn't come here to finish in 8th place. I was not hired here to finish in 8th place. Now, there's a lot of things that go into that. I'm not here to create excuses or negative narratives. If you know anything about me, I can't stand negativity. If you bring negative to my plate, you're going to get confronted, because I can't stand negativity. I grew up with nothing, but we learned to love what we had. And that's the way I've always lived my life and continue to live my life. I don't worry about what we don't have. I don't worry about what you have. I worry about what I have and what we have. And we got everything we need here. Now, moving forward, I gave him my word last summer that I was going to be better on the sideline. I didn't keep my word. And when I give my word, I own it. If I had done something against what I told him in private, I'd speak to him in private. That's why when he said he wanted to be here, I thought it was important, so I can make sure I publicly make the statement that the stuff I've done publicly has brought a little embarrassment to some people, whether it's Ryan or people that love this university. And just like them, my family loves this university. We care about this place. This place is important to us. Making this place good means a lot. When I get to build relationships with the great players that used to play here that were idols of mine when I was a young kid, it blows my mind what this place still means to them when I listen to them speak. So being a part of it means a lot to me. So now as we move forward and try to grow this whole adjustment period that we've been through, changing leagues and all this stuff, and the X's and O's on the difference between the A-10 and the MAC, it's two different worlds. The game is different. You got to recruit differently. I used to live in the Midwest. There's a reason Midwest schools don't schedule the MAC. You're hearing the coaches in the league talk about those things. I never coached against the MAC, so I had no idea. Keith, I can't believe I said Keith. Bob Huggins is a MAC guy. I know what the MAC meant to him and how good he thought it was, even though I never coached against the MAC. Keith Dambrot is a dear friend. Brott coached in the MAC forever. Like, Huggs and Brott are dear friends. They never played each other. There's a reason Midwest schools don't play the MAC, and that's why you sit there and listen to the coaches complaining about schedules, the ones that have been in their schools for 8, 9, 10, 15 years. So now that we've been through that chapter, because last year was an aberration, man. We had a bad year. I had a bad year. I'm not into delegating. He gave me what we needed, and I didn't do my job very well. My job is to get people to coexist. On Super Bowl Sunday, we're in 4th place in the A-10, regardless of what happened in November and December. Super Bowl Sunday, that means first couple days in February, we got on an airplane, flew home from LaSalle, and we're in 4th place in the A-10. If we had beaten St. Louis the game before, we had been in sole possession of 3rd place. But instead, we couldn't finish the season the right way. For whatever reasons, which is not important to you guys. It's my job to make sure that we get it to the finish line. And it didn't happen. So last year was an aberration. I'm not a very good self-promoter. I've been exposed to winning everywhere I've been. I've never been exposed to losing. Whether I was responsible for the decisions or I was a suggester in the world of decisions. I've never been around losing. High school, Northeastern, Cincinnati, K-State, South Carolina, I've never been exposed to losing. And last year was very frustrating. I gave you the cliff notes so you understand the responsibility that I put on my own plate to do right for this university because of my family, because of what this place means to my family, and the responsibility I have for him. Last year, I did a you-know-what job, and that's not acceptable. This year, we finished in 8th place. There was an adjustment period with the MAC. I'll be more than happy to answer questions on that rather than bore you with all that stuff from, not excuses, from the realities of what I had to learn. But before we can all move forward, I got to keep my word to him. And I told them I was going to be better, and I was not. I can't allow my personal journey, my personal frustration of being full of, excuse my words here, piss and vinegar, because I got fired 4 years ago for failing, to continue to linger in my everyday approach to what I do. I have to separate from that. I have to find peace, that I'm around the right people, I'm around the right school, that means a lot to my family. Heck, my youngest son, I didn't recruit him. He wanted to come here. Do you think if my wife and my oldest son had a bad experience, you think anyone that's in, well, I know Colby's a mom, I know Kirsten's a mom. You're not a mom yet, are you? Do you think a mother's going to allow their child to go somewhere where they know it's a bad experience? I don't care what he said and I said, that wouldn't have happened. So before we can all move forward, I got to move forward. And I gotta let bygones be bygones, and I gotta find peace in my heart to come in here and be better for our players. I said this to Ryan the other day. When you're an assistant, like, you can cuss every day and do whatever, and no one will say anything about you. When you're the head coach, you control playing time. So Pandora's box is open for players to be negative about their experience with you because of playing time. I've been this is year 20 coming up as a head coach in Division I basketball. Not one player, not one, has ever given a negative exit interview to administration at any school I've coached at. Not one. That includes the ones that transferred before transferring was a popular thing to do. So I share that with you because my relationship with players is strong, continues to be strong. And Rasul Diggins just sent me a text. I'm not going to bore you and read his text. I actually asked him if it was, I'm getting text messages from guys I coached in the 80s today. The 80s. Rasul sent me a text a little while ago, and the reason I use him is because when he expired his college eligibility here, he's the first guy that stayed with me for 3 years and accepted staying here until his eligibility expired. He said, without you, I'd be lost. That was the last sentence on his text message. And it's not like his season last year ended up the right way. But that's what I've always done here in this business, and it's what I continue to do with my players. This team, I had great relationships with them. Did I get frustrated? Yes. Do I get frustrated with my children? Yes. I just, I'll share one last thing, then I'll move on. I grew up in an era where when you didn't do what you were told to do, they didn't wait till you got home. You took your whooping at the movie theater, at the grocery store, at the department store, in the middle of the class, by the teacher, in front of everybody. You took your whooping where it happened. You didn't wait to take a whooping 3 hours later when you got home. I've got to understand that these are different times. It's not 1978 anymore. It's not 1985 anymore. But our relationship with players continues to be good. And I'm excited about moving forward. I don't lay down, man. You might knock me down, but you better be ready for me to get up. I don't stay down. I never have, never will. I'm only going to stay down one time, and that's when the good Lord comes to get me. Other than that, I'm always going to get back up when I get run over. So as we move forward as a program, it's got to start with me, with the way that I represented it, especially when I gave him my word that I was going to be better at something, and I was not. So with that, frustrating year, awesome year. I told this team when we got beat by Toledo in front of him, and I had never told him this, I contemplated quitting at the end of last year. That's how complicated last year was for me. Those guys in the locker room actually gave me life and made me enjoy coming into practice and going on the challenge of a season with those guys. And because of them, I'm even more excited about the growth, the moving forward, trying to finish the job that I was asked to come do here, which is to provide this school a conference championship, to provide this school the opportunity to play in postseason basketball. So I get it, we're not there yet, but I'm really excited about who we got, who's coming, the answers I get in recruiting, the phone calls, because in recruiting you pick up the phone and call. And they don't take your call, probably got no chance. people pick up the phone and answer our call. So we're excited as coaches as to what's in front of us. So away we go. Sorry for that, Dan. That was a lot longer than I told you I was going to be. Howard, are you recording this? Because there's no way, you and I being the same age, that you remember half the crap I just talked about.
That's a different issue. Now that you've had time to reflect, what went wrong?
See, Howard, that's where I'm different than most. I look at it as to what went right, because I can't build if I'm dealing with what went wrong. You know, we live in an era where everybody says, like, leadership. Oh, this is leadership. Really? Like, why do you go to the bookstore and there's more books on leadership than anything else? Because we're all human beings. We're all different. So what went wrong is we gave up too many leads. What went wrong is we didn't make enough free throws to win close games. When we did, we won. What went right? I developed relationships with 11 guys that I never knew before last summer. And if I was fortunate to coach Marcus Banks and Leo for another year, you'd get the response that we got from Keon Thompson and Matt Cross and Rasul Diggins when they stayed for year two. But I don't get to coach those guys for another year. That's where I have to be at peace with the world I'm in right now, that I get a year to make it work. I don't get 2 years like I used to. I got to be at peace with that. I can't get out of bed and be frustrated with that. I've got to be at peace with that. So what went wrong? I assume you mean from a winning and losing standpoint? Yeah, we're 6 possessions away from being a 23-win team. 6. That's the reality of the moment. In 11 league losses, in 7 of them, we had double-digit leads in the second half. What went wrong? Well, I didn't know the league. And that's where X's and O's come into play. The A10 and the MAC are 2 leagues that are played completely differently. Like, people think that basketball is just played to play. The biggest difference between the MAC and the SEC is not the guards. It's not anything other than the size and the depth. And when we coached in the A10 and prepared a team to win in the A10, I'm gonna give you I just shared this with Ryan and Thor last week. Like, the big guys in the A10, they're all rollers. They all sprint roll to go dunk balls at the rim. Well, in recruiting, we all want to shop at, I don't know, what's your favorite store, Howard? Gucci. You look like a Gucci kind of guy. We all want to go shop at Gucci, but sometimes Gucci don't like our pockets. So we got to go to Saks or whatever, Macy's or whatever store, to go find maybe a Gucci that's sold there on clearance because we can't get it over there. It's just the world that we're in right now. That don't mean your Gucci's better than mine. We just had to shop in different places. And so we brought a team together. And ball screen defense is the key to winning and losing games in today's day and age. It's not scoring points. It's ball screen defense. We scored more points per game than any team I've coached here before in the regular season. But last year, as disjointed as we were in 4th place, not because we can score, because we learned to guard. I wouldn't allow them not to guard, and I'm going to take credit for that one because that thing was a journey with those guys last year. But I made them guard, and that allowed us to start winning games. This team defensively, the makeup of it wasn't great. We blocked 60 shots. 61 as a team on the year. 61. Think about that. How crazy is that? The leading shot blockers in the history of K-State played for me. The leading shot blockers in the history of South Carolina played for me. Like, we blocked 60 this year. As we address recruiting, length and athleticism was a big thing. And then the simplicity of, I'm going to use one thing, X and O standpoint, ball screen defense. So when your guards are small, when people drive you, see back we used to, everyone talks about adjusting. We used to play cross screen, down screen, stagger screen, back screens, all that stuff. So you had to guard all that. But your guards stayed on the perimeter. Now the game, the court opens up and guards are, Jalen Brunson, everyone says he's the best point guard in the NBA. I dispute that. He's the best post player in the NBA. That's how he scores. At little as he is, he drives it and he plays off 2 feet in the paint. That's a post player. That's not a, but that's how people play now. So when people drive you one-on-one, if your guards are small, and we were small, it's really hard to deter passing and shooting. They score over the top of you. If you get out of the way, you're a badly coached team. If defensively you can figure out a way to keep your chest in front of the ball, now the guy upstairs, he controls whether that ball goes in or not, and the guy on defense, who you are. Well, our guys are small. People jump and shoot over the top of us. So in preseason, I never coach these guys. I'm like, okay, how am I going to protect these guards? I'm at practice with them every day. I can see the good and the bad. I said, all right, so on ball screens, we're going to put 2 on the ball. Then the season starts, and we're putting 2 on the ball, and we didn't really play. Marshall did it, but we didn't play anybody else whose bigs played in what we call short rolls. So that was kind of Florida State. All their bigs were sprint roll guys. Boston College, their bigs were all sprint roll guys. So we're putting 2 on the ball so the ball don't get downhill. And now you can rotate and prevent people from throwing lobs and getting in the paint. So we're surviving. But now we got in the MAC, every big in the MAC plays in the short roll. So now we're 2 on the ball, and it's short roll, bang, and now you're getting diced up behind the play because now it's a 4-on-3 behind the 2 on the ball. And so I said, okay, that's a bad option. By the 3rd game of the MAC, I was like, okay, we can't do this anymore. We're getting diced up. So we started changing our ball screen coverages. So and people just started driving us and scoring over the top of us. So we continued to change ball screen coverages during the whole course of the conference season to try and protect us best we can. So we didn't give anyone a steady dosage. And in reality, you don't win because of 97 schemes. You win because you're really good at your scheme, if that makes sense what I just said. You know, and we spent all year trying to find the scheme that can offset some of that in MAC play. And that's part of the reasons why defensively we were, I'm not going to say not very good, but, you know. And then here's something else, Howard, that as we move forward and learn the MAC, the A10 was a very, transient, I don't know if that's the right word, rosters, the league, people came and went, the top of the league, the middle of the league, and the bottom of the league. In the MAC, go look at the rosters of team that finished 1 through 5th. They returned all their good players. It's just the way of the Midwest. People in the Midwest, for the most part, come from mom and dad at home. They don't want to venture too far away from home. People in the Midwest don't come east to play basketball, just like people in the East don't really go to the Midwest to play basketball. So those Midwest schools, those kids stay. Peter Suter walked into, what's his name? Travis's office, and he said, you don't have to worry about NIL, man. Tell me what you need from me. We're going to go win next year. That's, you know, we got to get there. That's what we got to create here. We got to establish some continuity with our roster. I know he's doing everything in his power to give us what we need. Everyone thinks money's to go get players. If I told you what the market right now, by the way, the portal's not open till the 7th, and the conversations that are going on right now are embarrassing. If I told you what the market is for an average player right now, you'd sit there, Howard, and say, what are we doing? That's not me complaining. That's me giving you the nuts and bolts of this. We got what we need so we can keep our players. We have to keep our players. Growth comes from within, not from the outside. We have to grow from within. We cannot be worried about growing from the outside. So, sorry, Howard, I've been on airplanes all week, so my brain's been going in 100 million different directions, and don't mean to over-expand on a simple question.
You've had
The answer is yes, but you got to, that was happening during the course of the year. I'm trying to keep them focused on let's go win games. So speaking to their parents and their coaches, we got beat by Toledo, and at 11 o'clock at night, Toby Lane, our ops guy, was still trying to figure out how to get us all on flights to come home and get guys on spring break to go home to their families. So I have not been in front of them until this morning. We had guys come in to get lifts today. You know, everything was very short in passing. I can't tell you what decisions they're going to eventually make here in the next 3 weeks or 2 weeks, whatever it is. What I can tell you is that their experience here was really good. Those guys are all excited about what they just went through this year, and their families. That's the consistent conversation.
Ryan, you just announced on Friday that Mike Loeffler's coming back and have extended the contract.
Yeah.
How much does that mean to the university as a whole to have someone like that, especially basically building a program from the start in year one and having 20 wins in year three?
Yeah, Mike's done an amazing job. You know, I think Mike went through some of those early growing pains because of the environment that we were in college athletics, and a lot of our women either graduated on that championship team, either graduated or left for their 5th year somewhere else. And I give him a ton of credit going from 5 wins to, you know, what do we have, 23 or 24 wins this year. And he's done everything the right way, and you know, you get what you earn, and he has certainly earned the opportunity to continue, for us to continue to invest in his program in a way that's going to allow us to ultimately win championships. And I know he and our women were disappointed with how we finished this year, but I will tell you, in that, by every measure, I think the energy in the crowd, the community, the engagement they've had, it was an absolutely blockbuster year, and I look forward to many more ahead. Mike's done a great job, and he's been a great partner, and I know he and Frank have a great relationship. He really enjoys going and speaking with Frank, and I think that's where, you know, Frank, you talk about mentorship, right? Frank won't tell you this. That's where I think he's at his best in our department, is being around people and helping them advance and telling them about his career and all the different nuances, and Mike's certainly a product of that as well. So, yeah, it's psyched to be able to sign him to an extension. It's a good day for the university and our women's basketball program.
Ryan, circling back to the men's basketball side of things, how would you assess where the program is at right now? How would you assess this past season, maybe 2 seasons? And what do you think is going to, you know, what are you expecting in the years coming?
Yeah, you know, I think one thing that's probably a shame on us is, I spoke to it a little bit in my opening comments. We've done some really good things in the last 4 years under Frank, and the program has moved forward in a number of ways that I think sometimes you take for granted. Things academically, things in the community, the type of young men that he's brought here. I've really enjoyed them in this community, and I think people around this community would tell you that. That's a hallmark of Coach Martin. We've had some tremendous wins. We've had some tough losses. I think for us, and you know, Frank and I talk often about what we can collectively do in partnership to build this program in future years to have success that we all want, right? We all want to go back to those moments of programmatic success that we've had in our history. But we have to make sure that in this environment that's ever evolving right now, and we are building the plane while we fly it, that we're being very thoughtful and being nimble in how we effectively build that success. And that's the partnership that I've enjoyed with Frank, because he's lived it at different places. And so have I, and so have others in our department. You know, what we're looking for is, and Frank said it, so it's not, you know, we don't want to finish in 8th place, obviously, in the MAC, right? We want to go win championships. And I think what you saw in that Miami win at the end of the year, and even the game before that, we had our backs against the wall at against Ohio here. our kids were playing hard, playing for each other, playing for this program, playing for the Massachusetts on the front of their jersey. Ultimately, those are really good tests for where our program is. And look, we until you win a championship and get to the NCAA tournament, which is what we all want, we're not going to rest. We're not going to be happy, and we're all accountable for that. And so that's our goal. You know, that's and I don't think that's probably a surprise to anyone, but that's our goal, is to make sure that, one, from my standpoint, and we've got other administrators that are here, we try to do everything we can to make sure that Coach Martin and his guys have the ability, that we're tapping out all those resources for them to win. And he spoke to it, and it's probably the biggest thing in the MAC that I recognized, as well as like the continuity of those programs at the top. Those rosters aren't changing a lot. That this day and age is really rare. And we've got to figure out what that combination, that mechanism is to get that, because I think that will help us here. And that's the retention piece. That's the resource allocation to retain, and then to be able to free up the opportunities and the resources to go get talent to blend in. And, you know, we're constantly learning what's in front of us, what's around us. And the change in college athletics, the change in conferences was a perfect storm for Massachusetts athletics, Massachusetts basketball. And we're in the moment. Nobody's outside of our walls. Nobody's, except for our fan base, obviously, nobody in the MAC is disappointed that we're not winning championships. Trust me, they don't want us to come into the league and win. But that's what we're trying to build towards, and we're not going to stop until we do. And I have a tremendous amount of resolve that that's going to be the outcome. And you know, I look forward to continuing to invest in Frank and his program to meet those standards.
For either of you, with the results being what they've been the last 2 years, Frank, you saying that Ryan's given you enough resources to compete, has there been any talk about reallocating the spending that's already being done on the men's basketball program, devoting more to NIL or the student athlete experience?
I don't think
When you say reallocating, like
Already the expenses being devoted to, I know some athletic departments have talked about taking certain areas away to devote more to NIL or just salaries to devote.
Well, here's, and I'm going to say something, and this, obviously, we're on the same page on this, but we can spend a lot less on travel when we go play games, and it's going to complicate the experience of the student athlete. That's like not nickel and diming stuff. That's where a huge financial number can take place. You know, Akron gets on a bus and travels to play 5 or 6 other games. You know, that doesn't cost them anything. That's a reality of the moment. We have to grow it. We signed up to be part of a league that I was excited about, that's for the well-being of our university. I'm not into the last league. The A-10 was awesome. I came here to coach in the A-10. The A-10 was an incredible experience. That's in the rearview mirror, man. Like we're not getting anywhere worried about the A-10 anymore. We're in a place that's going to be incredible. So we have to generate I got to help him. This is not a Ryan Bamford problem. This is a head coach. I've got to do more. This is where I'm saying I've got to be better when I'm in front of the world. So he doesn't have any roadblocks with people that maybe don't like the fact that I yell and stomp my foot and drop some words that I'm not proud of sometimes. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Because it's the world that we're in that league, the expenses it takes for us to be able to succeed. That's why I'm telling you, we get everything we need. You know, he could have said, we're going to the MAC, Frank, and guess what? You're taking 6 a.m. commercial flights on Mondays. And then on Wednesdays, because you can't travel back after you play at Northern Illinois, you're going to have to take a 6 a.m. commercial back to run practice Thursday on campus. He could have said that. And I would have said, I'm too old for this. But he didn't. He said, no, we're not doing this because, not you, Frank, it's not right for the athletes. We have to make sure we do this the right way. You have to conduct things in a championship manner to get a championship outcome. The winning and losing is on me. That's not on anybody else. He's given me what we need to win. This administration gives us unbelievable resources, not just money, as human beings, to make sure that our players do things the right way. At the end, guys that sign up for my job, we understand what we sign up for. You have to win or you're not going to stay at the school you're at. In men's basketball, you don't get to be 500. This is not a shot at anybody. You don't get to be 500 and keep your job at any school. The people who have my job around the country, we understand the world that we sign up for to be there. We don't complain about it. That's what comes with being a head basketball coach of men's basketball in today's day and age. You have to, the days of how many head coaches, like that's the thing that's unique with the MAC. Think about the standings. You know what else the standings had in common? The coaches have been there, with the exception of Travis Steele, who's been there 4 or 5 years. The other coaches have been there 9, 15, 17, 19 years. That's the continuity with little things, with the officials. MAC officials have never done. I met every one of those for the first time. I never knew any of those guys. Those guys have relationships with those coaches the way I had with the A10 guys. It's all part of moving forward and growing. Sorry, Ryan.
It's okay.
I had to interject the revenue sharing is the new world, and we're in. And guys that have my job, the window got even smaller. It used to be here, and then salaries got crazy. Like, I don't get out of bed and determine my salary. You know what I mean? It's the great thing about America. The market determines your salary. You don't pick and choose what you want to get paid. And then that window for coaches over the last 20 years went to here. In the world that we're in right now, that window just went to here from a patient standpoint. We're okay with that, man. We understand that. We signed up for the jobs. We can't complain about what comes with the job. So that's my side of it. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I think from an administrative standpoint, we are Mondays at 3 o'clock. We've got an executive leadership staff meeting, and we're constantly talking about what are the things, the inputs and outputs. How can we address some of the gaps, some of the things? Frank's right. Like you want to build a championship caliber program, you got to have championship resources. You have to invest in the right things. We are different. This is not an excuse. We spend a lot more in travel because we have to than the rest of the league. They can put that into other things. We can't. That is what it is. That doesn't mean that we have shortcomings in other areas. Correct. It just means that we could redirect that. We can't. But what are we trying to do? One, we're trying to generate more revenue always, obviously, right? I have met a coach or an AD who says we have enough. But we're constantly looking at the business case of everything we do in our department. And are we – because what was true 3, 4, 5 years ago and the way that you conduct business isn't true anymore. And so, again, that goes back to that answer of being nimble. We absolutely have to turn our expense side of our department upside down and say, okay, from a zero-based budgeting approach, what still sticks? What works? What do we need to do? And that's not just men's basketball. That's across the board. And that's an exercise that my staff's probably worn out from me continuing to press those buttons to make sure that we have everything we can. It's the reason why our scholarship budget went from $13 million and change to $20 million and change in 1 year. And it didn't just come because we raised more money. It came because we reallocated resources in our department to meet this moment that we're in.
One more? I have a question. Coach Martin, you mentioned that last year you were contemplating retirement.
I didn't say retiring.
Or what did you say?
I didn't come here to provide the school with a 12-win team. Make sense what I'm saying? And obviously I didn't manage that team the right way. So, but go ahead.
Thank you. After the loss of Ball State in the ambulance insurance postgame with Jay Vernon and Adam Frenier, you said, yeah, he tried to guard him, but Hill drove game, and our help is never there. Our help defense is never there. I'm tired of running shell drill, teaching rotations, and teaching responsibilities. Do you still feel that way? And are you tired of coaching basketball?
No. I wouldn't be sitting here. He and I would have had a conversation. I said this a long time ago. The day I'm not healthy, I was dead on the table. Okay? I'm still here. They put 2 stents in my heart on a Friday. So I wasn't at practice Friday. I wasn't at practice Saturday. I ran practice on Monday. My Widowmaker was clogged at 97% in one place, 74% in a second place, 30% in a third place. The doctor said to me, you're lucky you and I are having this conversation. I share that with you because if I'm giving the ability to breathe, I'm going to get out of bed and do my job. I don't lay around and blame. I don't lay around and act defeated. When I say I was frustrated, that's what I'm talking about. See, like this year I had a press conference, I can't remember, 2 different times. I came in here, I sat right here. This one was Miami game. And I said, Luka gave up 3 consecutive defensive breakdowns that led to the Miami getting away from us. I left this press conference. It's the first time in 20 years that I say something about a player in a negative way in a public setting. And I left here and I was like, that's wrong. And someone that's in this room, that's where leadership comes. We're human beings, man. I don't care how much money I make. I need to be coached like everybody else. None of us are the perfect walking example of life. We all need to be coached when we do things right and wrong. And that came up, and I said, I'm glad you're telling me this, because the first thing I'm going to do is walk into this team meeting that we get ready to have and address Luka by name in front of the players and apologize to him in front of the players for doing something that I've never done in 40, not in 2 seasons, in 42 seasons of basketball. That comment I just made, that has nothing to do with me being fed up with coaching. That just means I'm frustrated. Everyone wants to talk about what it takes to win. The things that it takes to win are real simple to identify. Sometimes you do those things perfectly and you still don't win. I'm big on identifying what prevents you from winning. Because if you're willing to do the things that prevent you from winning, then the commitment to win isn't there. I don't want to hear about, everybody wants to win. Everyone knows what it takes to win. Very few people want to live the chapter of life that you avoid the things that prevent you from winning. Last year's team refused to do some things defensively. Here's the thing I get from the world this world that we live in society. As coaches, when we don't give you behind-the-scenes information and we just sit up here, you guys say, oh, coach speak, he's boring. When we actually give you the reality of what's preventing us from winning, then it's flipped like he's being negative. Just telling you the truth. I'm not saying your question is negative. No. No. You've been in 4 years. You've never gone to a negative place. You're quoting what I said, and I'm giving you perspective. That's what was preventing us from winning, is that ball screen defense I was talking about. So when we couldn't put 2 on the ball, now we had to develop other ways to defend. So that means your help defense and your backside rotations become imperative. When you're playing Miami, and everyone talks about rotations, that's awesome. When their 3 shooters are 6'7", 6'7", 6'8", and your rotation guys are 6'2", if you're off by a step, that shot's gone, you're done. You got no chance of impacting that play. And getting our guys to comprehend. See, defense is all about sacrifice. Defense has nothing to do with individual talent. Individual talent is represented by your stats as a player. Defense is all about sacrifice. Who's willing to sacrifice to improve the team? That was, in a team that was really fun to coach, that was frustrating because we never really embraced that, what I just expressed there. So.
Off topic on this. In the Sweet 16, you said, first of all, you said you're coming back. But in the Sweet 16, you've got Calipari and Patino.
I didn't say I was coming back. I didn't know I was going somewhere.
Calipari, Patino, Rick Barnes, all these
Keep going.
veteran guys like you.
Keep going.
What does it say, about guys like you compared to the next flavor?
I'm not into telling the world of who they should follow or who should be hired. Or what won 30 years ago still wins today. That what it takes to win and what you have to avoid to lose, to prevent losing, that has never changed. Like you know, I get a kick at, you know, some people, because I've done this for so long, Howard, and by the way, I'm a people person. I don't hide in a basement. I'm always out in public. I go to Target to do my own shopping. I don't send my wife to do it. I go to restaurants. I treat people, I don't know. This is for someone else to determine. I treat people with respect and kindness when I'm out in public. I don't walk around like I'm the, you know, greatest thing since sliced bread. But as you get out there and you get around people, understanding how to do my job and allow people to be at peace with asking me questions like, why do you do that? Why do you handle that like that? That's why I'm kind to people. So I'm okay with people asking me about who I am when I'm doing my job. And if I wasn't, I wouldn't go out in public. Or I'd be this, you know, I think I used this word at the press conference. I said a curmudgeon. And the guy running the press conference looked at me like, what is he talking about? But all those guys won 30 years ago, and they continue to win today. Hard driving is what helps people win. It's not, like people say to me sometimes, Coach, man, I wish you would smile more. I'm like, about what? I'm not on the sideline trying to impress anybody. I'm on the sideline in the middle of competition trying to help my guys win. I've heard people say, I'm going to say something funny, like no one knows these things. Well, Frank, you never clap. Well, beginning, we won a state championship in 1987. I thought I wasn't married, so I thought it'd be intelligent for me to wear that state championship ring in my left hand. I'm left-handed. You go to games, I'm pretty intense during games. I would clap so hard that I completely bludgeoned and ruptured a blood vessel in my hand. So I stopped clapping back then because of that. And now as I move through the journey, I don't know, you just brought up some names. You see Tom Izzo ever clap on the sideline? No. You see Rick Barnes ever clap on the sideline? We're not cheerleaders, man. We're not cheerleaders. I get it. Sometimes, like in the postseason, someone said, Frank, you were clapping in the Miami game. Yeah, it's the end of the season. There's no more lessons to be taught. It's just about the next play and survive. You work all year to create the mindset to make sure the question that was asked earlier, that those mistakes don't happen, because if they happen, you got zero chance to win in the postseason. And you basically fight all year to lead, to hand the baton over to the players, so in the postseason, who your team is, you don't reinvent the wheel in the postseason. Who you are is going to get exposed in the postseason, good and bad. And you know, Pitino, like, he's a UMass guy. I know guys on my staff that played for him. I've been to Pitino's NBA practice. I've been to Pitino's NBA game and sat behind his bench. I don't remember him clapping very often, you know, and I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm not into judging the new wave of, we're all different people. We recruit our players. Howard, I had a guy ask me one time, well, Frank, you talk about education all the time. In a press conference like we are right now, you talk about education all the time. You always talk about being a math teacher. Do you yell at your students? I say, I didn't recruit my students. That's the truth. You know what my students used to call me, Howard? House man. You know what they called me, house man? Because nobody else wanted to teach them in the building that I taught at. That's who I taught math to. So the students will call me house man. I walk around the building, they say coach or Mr. Martin, house man. That's what they called me. And they said that in a way of respect for actually believing in them and helping them. See that? I gave you the cliff notes of my journey. I can get real deep in my journey so you understand where I come from and who I am and why I continue to have big-time relationships with players. But us old guys, like, man, that's how we were all raised. You know, when I was a sophomore, our basketball coach would sit in the half-court line in a chair, and he'd say, right-handed layups. If you dribbled with any hand other than your right hand, if you jumped off any foot other than your left foot, if you shot the ball and it didn't hit the backboard first, if you finger rolled or if you missed, you didn't go to the back of the line. You went and got right in front of him, and he had that big old wooden paddle with the holes in it, and you took a whack for doing something against the way he told you to do it. I don't think that's right, but that's how we all learned back then. They didn't clap when you made a layup. They paddled you when you messed up what would help you make the layup. Make sense what I'm saying? So as you look at all those old curmudgeons like me, that's who we are. You know, now the new age, the new guys are clappers. They jump up and down. All that. Good for them. I ain't mad at them. I'm trying to learn how they manage so I can fit in. That's when I thought about moving forward. That's what I'm talking about. So, you know, and by the way, to Dean, your question earlier, it just triggered in my head. In this journey I've been on, I've been asked to get on all these different boards. I sat in a room like this. I was there. This was Mark Emmert. And everything you're asking, I told him. Said, this is coming, man. What are you doing? You're going to ruin college athletics. And that's why they asked me to get on these boards, because I'm willing to express what I believe to be the truth. Because I didn't view it from a world of college basketball, because I knew college basketball, Ryan and the people who have his job understand how valuable we are. So they're going to figure out how to invest as much as they can in our program. I viewed this as the husband to Anya, who was a track athlete at UMass and had an incredible experience, the father to Amalia, who was a college volleyball player, that their opportunities might be ended because of the world that we were trying to force into the moment that we're in right now. These guys should be applauded. People worry about me. Don't worry about me, man. I got hired here to win. I didn't get hired here to do all the stuff he talked about. That's part of my responsibility that I signed up for when I started this journey back in 1985. That's who I am today. That's why we'll be 5 years from now if I'm afforded the opportunity to continue to coach, which is care about people, that they do things the right way. I signed up to win a league championship here. I signed up to try and get this university to the postseason for the first time since 2014. You know, I'm not here to talk about the successes or the failures of the past. That's the reality. I did that at K-State. K-State had not been to the NCAA tournament since 1988. We went 4 times in 5 years. South Carolina had not been to the NCAA tournament since 2004, had not won an NCAA tournament game since 1971. The greatest 5-year window in the history of K-State, totality, were the 5 years I was the coach there. The greatest years in South Carolina basketball wasn't when Frank McGuire was there. He's in the Hall of Fame. Wasn't when Eddie Fogler was there. Were my years from a winning standpoint. You realize South Carolina had won double-figure SEC games only twice in its history? We did it 6 times. After my first 3 years, so you go back to the last 7 years, one of which was a COVID year, 5 of those 7 years, we finished 5th or above in the SEC, with one of those years being a COVID year. Today's day and age, they're trying to convince you how the 14th place team in the SEC belongs in the NCAA tournament. Back then, they argued why we didn't belong in the NCAA tournament. That's the world that I'm in right now. I'm okay with that. I'm not here to complain about it. He brought me here to give UMass that level of success. This is personal for me because of his belief in me and because of what this place means to my family. I am invested in UMass from way before I became the head basketball coach here. This is very important to me. I apologize to anyone that I've offended because I dropped a certain word in the middle of a game. I need people to get on board and help us. We've had 3 of the highest attended games since 2014 while I've been here. Instead of worrying about the other games, to your question earlier, I'm worried about it can happen. Let's get this to like those 3 games. Let's do this more often. And it starts with me. I don't want people, when he knocks on their door and says, we need more, to say, well, Frank, so you know what? I can't do that to him. I gave him my word I wasn't going to do that. I got to make sure that conversation don't come up. And anyone that feels that way, I truly, in my heart, I mean it. I apologize so we can move forward and we can grow this. I want to make sure that when we play home games, it's the way I used to see it on TV, and it's the way it was against Miami this year. That's what I want to do. We're not going to get there by me complaining about who comes or who said what. It starts with me. I got to make adjustments. I got to change. I gave people, I'm a man of my word. I want people to keep their word with me. I better keep my word with them. I'm a man of my word. I gave my word that I was going to be better, and I didn't do that. Well, that has to stop. And we're moving forward, and it's about figuring out a way to win this MAC championship next year. Let's keep our players. Let's take a chance. Because some of these schools, the ones I said 1st through 5th, their guys were all seniors. So they're losing guys. So maybe we can be the team that keeps their guys together and adds, and let's go take it on and see what the future holds.